So obviously heading back into step three next season, what do you plan to learn from your first time round? Is there any kind of key things you're looking at now for this league and going, we're not going to do this, not going to do that, need to do this instead, kind of thing?
There's a few things from the way we play that just need to evolve and adapt from last time. I think last time, I'll be honest, I felt between both boxes we were very strong. In both boxes where games were won, we weren't good enough. We wasted too many opportunities in the attacking one, and we gave away so many silly goals that were from unforced errors or mistakes. So if we can correct those two or adjust those two things, we'll give ourselves a much better chance. And then sort of between both boxes, we've got a few things we just need to develop and evolve on. And if we can do that, we'll find ourselves in a great place, and who knows what we can achieve. Yeah, now there's a few we'll need to work on throughout pre-season, obviously as the season starts, but we know sort of the areas as things stand we need to sort of focus a bit more attention on, and if we can do that, then I'm sure we'll have a positive season.
Yes. How do you plan to kind of secure your safety as early as possible? I know that's the aim for every club in every division, is to make sure they're safe as soon as they can. But how do you want to go about doing that?
I just want to be consistent. At the end of the day, like we just want to have a points target per month, and we want to work towards that. So, yeah, you want to secure safety as soon as possible, and you want to try and finish as high as possible. And that's our aims as well. But at the end of the day, we will have the belief that if we can work towards a points target that's achievable each month, then we'll be confident as long as we work towards that we'll be safe. So that's the way we're going to approach it. So there's no sort of like, oh, we're going to go gun-ho from the first game of the season and absolutely go for it. We're just going to make sure we can try and build some strong foundations and just be consistent. And if we can do that, we'll have the belief and the confidence to make sure we're towards the right end of the table than the wrong end.
Yeah, are there any particular grounds or teams that you think are going to give Hitchin a particularly a tough run?
I think every team. I don't think there's ever an easy game. It's that old cliche, but I don't think there's ever an easy game because everyone's at step three for a reason, because they're good enough to be there. I think there's some exceptional teams like Real Bedford are very exceptional in what they do, and I expect they'll be right at the top end of the table. But even the ones you suspect to be near the bottom end of the table, there'll be tough away trips. They'll be really fighting when they come to Hitchin, and I think a lot of people will look at Hitchin and think we should be getting 3 points against them. So yeah, there's no team I'm really think is going to be really difficult, or any that I think are going to be really easy. I think each team has their own strengths and weaknesses, and they're going to give every game their all, and every game is going to be a difficult one to navigate.
Is there going to be much of a mentality shift in the squad? Kind of, obviously last season you won obviously far more games than you lost, where this season it might be a bit tighter in that aspect. Do you think there's going to be a bit of a change of how the players view the games, things like that, or have you got it pretty set?
No, I think we've got a winning mentality. I'm not saying probably not going to win as many games as we did last season, but we're going to approach every game the same way, and we're going to make sure we keep the momentum and the winning mentality, mindset, belief, confidence. We're going to keep it going in the right direction. To do that, like I say, I'm sure we can have a positive season. So yeah, we know it's going to be a lot more difficult because I think the jump between 4 and 3 is huge, but we're fully prepared for it, and we believe we can have a positive season.
Yeah, so what has your off season so far kind of looked like for you personally and for the club?
So for me personally, I literally, the day after the playoff final, 6 a.m. the next day, I had a flight out on a holiday. So, but I spent a lot of time on the phone trying to recruit players and stuff like that. I've had a lot of meetings with potential players, probably been the busiest one I've ever had. So yeah, there was a lot of work to be done and a lot of chats, and it was very time consuming, but we're sort of through that now. We've sort of built a squad that we're happy with, although we're always looking to strengthen. And then from a sort of a training standpoint, we were back in sort of last week. We were back in. We've only done 2 sessions to date. We've got another 2 coming up for our first pre-season friendly. So it's where we expect to be at. We're not expecting much from pre-season. We've got some very difficult games, but where we're different for last year is we know a lot of the group. The group knows the way we want to play, so it's just little tweaks. When last pre-season, it was a total rebuild, so it was a lot tougher this pre-season. We're not going to learn loads about the group, but it will just be about us getting up to speed and peaking at the right time, really.
How do you go about selecting your pre-season friendlies?
Well, try and reach out to a few professional clubs to give the lads the experience of playing against professional players. It also helps the club generate some extra income. So they're the first ones we try and secure, and then we just make sure we have a few sort of non-league friendlies that will be competitive and tough ones, and try and keep it as local as possible, because I don't want the lads doing loads of travelling in pre-season and then having to do loads in the season. I want to keep it quite local pre-season, because obviously the demands and the expectation in the season is a lot tougher. So yeah, it's literally try and find a few professional games, which we have done, to try and generate a bit of extra income for the club and give the players the opportunity to play against professional clubs. And then it's looking at a couple of non-league friendlies just to give us a tough game before we start the season.
So in 3 years from now, if we sat down and had this conversation again in 3 years, let's say, where would you want the club and yourself to be at?
Well, I just hope, one, I'm still manager, because if I'm still manager of the club, then things have obviously been going well. But I just like us to be as high as possible. Like, I'm not going to set over-ambitious plans. The club's got a lot of work going on where they're doing ground development and that, and hopefully in 3 years' time that will be basically done or to on its way to being complete, and it'd be great to be involved in that. But as long as we can finish high as possible, we don't want to go back down to step 4, so we want to make sure we stay at step 3, but we want to make sure we're actually competitive at step 3. So in 3 years' time, if we're still at step 3, as long as we're towards the top end, as in like top half of the table, always with the shout of sort of playoffs and that, I think the club and supporters will be more than happy. And then I think once we look at getting our ground development done, that will help propel us on to sort of the top end of the table, which would be really good for Hitchin, because I haven't been there for a few seasons now.